Hello, this is Prim Silver, and I'm going to tell you a story here. I'm going to weave a story because we've got the spider here. This story started with these cards, Discovery of Power Through the Way of Animal. And then it started with one dog that I rescued, and I'll tell you about it. But it led all the way to this little baby raccoon here called George, who happens to be in spirit for us right now. And I'm going to tell you about also the spider, the meaning of this, because it's got a lot to do with what we weave, what we create fence and everything. And so it kind of goes deep into this. Now the spider, she created the primordial alphabet. I mean, from the definition in the medicine cards, that's what it says, which kind of makes sense. And it has two sides, no alternative or solution. It's a web of fate. And we're going to talk about fate here. Learn to make records of everything, which I do. Just like her web, like on the internet, it contains symbolic patterns. And that's how you end up seeing messages all the time through universe. You co-create with the universe, showing, and it's showing to us and reflecting many forms of symbols, archetypes, because it's going to be about archetypes, animals, cloud formation, sometimes not in this story, but here, words that we hear in songs or through significant people we meet. And I did meet somebody here, and I'll have to explain that. Now, being attentive and acknowledging the magical, meaningful coincidence, synchronicity, you see and feel the link, the connections with the natural law, and attract just the right trigger or the messages. He's like a little messenger here. So I'm going to put George away here. It calls to be observant. This playful dance with the universe is quite an incredible discovery. And sometimes it manifests in so many shapes, all right? And through cards or even other things. You could throw bones on the ground if you want, rocks, or, whatever you're seeing. Why I'm sharing this is because this spring I had a beautiful raccoon baby called George. We left him alone for more than 24 hours by the side of the shed, hoping, the mama would come back. Well, that didn't happen. So I have to explain this with the medicine card. It was clear that I started a discovery through the cards and the power of the animals. It all started in 2024 in April. All right. And so I have to also say that I'm grateful to have met through this journey with the raccoon. I met a woman in Belfilin. I call her Julia. She also rescued a raccoon that was given to her to care and help the center near her hometown in the woods of her beautiful wild Quebec province, just across the river from me, from Ontario. It was meant, let's say, a destiny, fate, okay? We got the fate here, to be in contact. Somehow she's also related to my neighbor. That was coincidence completely. And I knew I could not keep this little guy, so I had to take steps to bring him with a buddy, which she had, a little raccoon, and she called it Raymond, who happens to be the name of my neighbor. Double. You see, you could pay attention to the double here. Little did I know George was an angel sent to us, and only through opening my mind to discover the meaning of our experience, Julie and I were called to understand the natural law of our things on this beautiful planet with all its loving creature. Well, let me tell you something magical. This journey with the medicine card started for me personally in the spring of 2024, and this is where I'm going to explain it here. Just like the last spring when babies are born, and have to survive those few months ahead with being close to their mother. Now, I received the medicine card in spring last year, and I was taking a course with Janine on Beyond Mystic Academy, which I recommended to. I've seen those cards before, and I bought them before, just the course, and right away, I take. And I ask, while with this deck, bring to me, or what will bring to me, and what will I use them for? Well, it happened to be coinciding with a drama involving my new puppy, Foxhound, who I rescued the year before. Well, okay, so let me explain this. So guys, I'm going to put this aside here. Now we got the spider, And so when I picked the 3 cards for the puppy, well, for the puppy, there she is, she's a weasel, and it opened up a whole door. We had to create a fence. These turtles here, and I'm going to show you a photo of the turtle dream catcher that I have that is was made from a friend, Cindy, who's on the other side. That's why I have these cards here, because there's like this the dream catcher she made for me, and the view of the pond is over there, and the turtle was quite meaningful to her. So is for us, because we've been rescuing these turtles. Now we see you got the turtles here in the center, and here's that little weasel, that's my dog, and we had to create a fence. So the story really kind of goes around that right now. You could see that when I picked those 3 cards, it was connecting to my daily situation, which was a drama about my dog killing the turtles, and we had to do something. So there you go. Now the turtle card, the weasel here, and the spider 33, a doorway. It's a time to connect with the power of the earth when you get the turtle. The turtle has a protection combined with the spider. We can see it carries a theme weaving around some web to contain the situation, the problem with a predator. The turtle calls for observing with a motherly compassion. Well, I certainly had to find that, I'll tell you, because I was not too happy. So the spider weaves a web of fate for those who get caught in her web and becomes her dinner. It also gives the warning to not fall in the web of fear. Start journaling, write your progress. Well, here I'm pulling cards, so I was kind of doing that. Again, the spider is known to be the primordial creator of the alphabet, because of the web has pattern that looks like symbolic. I did say that. Now, 30 parts of the turtle, like the photo I showed you of Cindy who made this dream catcher, she's also on the other side. Interesting that it comes into the card right away with the turtle. First 3 card is about creating a protection field with the help from other, working together, even from the other side, catching our dream. Now, Charlie Stapleton McGrath, that's my little dog there. She's a real wheezer, a foxhound with a crushed foot. I rescued her. She has the mission to kill anything moving. We decided to fence the property, weeks of work, but the pond was still open. This also forced us to fence her all around to protect the turtle she attacked. My goodness, I was so upset, but we managed to fix the problem. Now everything's beautiful. Now notice the weave of net, fence, cage, trap, just like a spider would do, weave. And a protective, that we're trying to weave this. This is our story. See the pattern here. Also pay attention to the twos. And now, damned if you do and damned if you don't. I believe George had a destiny, my little raccoon, part of Julie and I, to experience this discovery or power through the way of animal. Let me show the progression now and explain how this is linked. So this was this spring, when I wanted to find out about what happened to George, because when we found him, he was alone. And we went over there, and so I said, I'm going to ask the question to these cards, what happened? Here we got the prairie dogs, the alligator, the dolphin. Well, he leaped. You see, he's leaped. He got out of this from the teeth from the alligator. He managed to get himself out, or he was not caught. Where prairie dogs, I'm going to say there was 2 that we saw, 2 coyotes, and they were near the water, and I have a feeling that the other ones got caught, and he was just waiting for, he didn't catch it. Like, that's what these coyotes did. They catch the others. That was his fate, but he leaped out of it. He escaped this fate. Now, after these 3 cards, and I said, okay, that's quite clearly it was telling me about, that, there was a predator that got the other ones. So I said, okay, I'm going to just go and pull the raccoon. These cards was like randomly picked, but I said, I'm going to put the raccoon just below here and see 2 cards on each side. Well, look at that. 2, and it's unknown. So it's almost like in the spirit world, and that's why I'm paying attention. There's 8 cards in the medicine cards that are empty like this for you to create your own symbol. So this is like using our imagination, go into the dream, like really truly go into the dream, because there's nothing written here. So we're moving forward. So I put the raccoon here, and I even think that this also represents the 2 dogs. You know, the situation of two raccoons. It just multiplies. So I had to kind of give you the link here, and also the dolphin is a link to the dreamtime dwellers. Apparently, he kind of brings by coming out and breathe. He brings a link to the people that are dreaming, going the depth of water and come out. You know, so it's like a link. So I think that George, you know, he basically linked and escaped his fate by his sibling, but you know, he's a link also between those 2 worlds. Okay, so I'm going to go now to the next reading about the raccoon situation with Julie, and I'm going to explain how this all went. Well, I did pick 3 cards for Julie that I mentioned before, and I'm going to show you a photo of, now that's going to get a little wild because it's quite a few coincidences. Okay, and here's Julie. All right, she's got my little guy there, George, and that's Raymond, her little guy. Look at her wild hair. I'm going to explain something here. So I brought to Julie the George, and we created a nice fence, everything we could do our best to try to contain him. Well, he's a little leaper, you know, he's like, whoop, he leaped out, okay? So there was an accident, and that's what happened to 2 of her dogs, anyway, this accident happened. That was his fate. Now, I picked a card to try to get a representation, and here she's right in the middle here. And this is who she is, a lynx. It's like a person who kind of keeps the, you know, like, look at the way she's like looking over, protecting. And we created this. And here I'm the moose in the story here, because a moose speaks when it needs to speak, and it has to. Her situation, it was about like she has to learn to find her voice or talk. And interestingly, having the spider there, it says the primordial language of alphabet. It's right there on the side of it. Now I wanted to know more about so I went to pick 2 of the cards. Where did I put them? Oh, there they are. Okay, so when I pick 3 cards, I get the bottom and the top cards. And what did I end up with? Well, let me move this a little bit ahead here. Horse, and the raccoon was at the top. Do you see this? There you go. She has 2 horses, and she takes care of. Now, Julie was very emotional about this whole thing, so was I. We both really connected deeply into the story, and it got deeper and deeper. The night before the tragedy, that poor little George decided to escape and have the same fate of his own sibling, silly little raccoon. But, you know, that's the way they are wild. We can't contain them, okay? And she really loved wild animal. And why I called her the feline-like, which is kind of the lynx here, is because also there's a connection to her that I saw right away to the avatar. Look at that. When I met Julie for the first time, when I showed up at her place, she came down her driveway in a bikini. Now, we're talking a beautiful woman, you know, wild and with these hair. And I'm like, whoa, you know, pretty impressive, I'll say. Okay, so really, that's why I think she's very close to nature, and we connected quickly together, talked about how animals are teaching us and sometimes even take our own problems within themselves and they suffer for us, which I think is kind of like, they're like little angels, And here she's basically on top of her head here, and she's her protect. That's why I call her little angel. Now you see she's got braids and everything, and I met her, she had braids all up and everything. Well, the day before, or a couple of days before the tragedy, which was on a Thursday, she took her braids down. Now I didn't know that. That same night, the Wednesday night before that George had his little accident, I had a dream that, in my dream, you have to undo your braids. And I was telling people, I said, well, when you undo take the web, break it all apart, you can't sleep, you can't go to sleep in the night with your braids. It's not good. It's too much tangledness and it's not healthy. You need to take your braids down. And the meaning of braiding and unbraiding actually is be ready. You're going to be moving into a very deep emotional journey. That's exactly what happened. Now, she called me that morning, and just a few days afterwards, she did say, oh my God. And when I told her about my dream, she says, I took my braids out the night before and I was ready to put them back together that same day, the day after, but it didn't happen, So for her, because that's why I'm talking about the avatar, because the tree of life, which she also designed a tree for her sister, for her business coaches in landscaping, again, close to nature, and the tree. And I remember when I saw the image, I said, oh my God, that looks like the tree of life. Anyway, and then here in the avatar, where they used to do to connect to the story of the life and everything, they would put their braids and connect it together. Isn't that interesting? And George used to play in her hair all the time. He was crazy. He was just like this, always on top of her head. Oh, raccoon kind of like that, but having that photo of her this way, I think it's a beautiful little souvenir for me to see. So here, and we kind of talked about the story here that she at her feet, one of her horse had a bit of an injury that day, and here I'm kind of sort of like, okay, you're looking out. You got George above there looking over. The story, I have to talk about the raccoons, because the raccoon meaning is like a Robin Hood, caring for the underdog. Leader gets the best food because he's protecting the clan. And that's in a way that you could see that he's already doing this, being a protective animal, So this whole story here with the tree of life, the conclusion is I call for a message from George 1 week afterwards. I mean, it was very emotional for all of us, but I know there's the animals, it's all part of a bigger consciousness, and we have to kind of accept that, we can only do so much and contain them and create a cage around them. And even that, I knew it was like, oh my God, we're really going against nature. And I called for a message a week after this whole tragedy, after I processed this. And so is Julie, and I'm so glad that she's going to be fine taking care of her horse and taking care of the little raccoon that she has now in company. And she have to put two together. Well, so the night on a week after, I decided to ask for a little message from George. Oh, could you send me a little message? Well, the next morning, what do we see on my porch there? A raccoon. Okay, now he's up on the tree because my dogs are about to get him, And he stayed there or she, I call it she. She stayed there, so cute. It was like, oh my God. And she just stayed there. Now we talked to her. Now, we never have raccoon here because this raccoon, when I found George, it was not on this property. It's in another place. It's a cottage. Here, no raccoon would ever come. Never. Hey, they just don't, because we got dogs. I have 4 dogs. That's why wildlife don't come. It was just the turtle, my issue here. But suddenly this morning, the night before I asked can George send me a message? Well, it sent me this little raccoon, and then after that, it left during the day. It waited all day in the tree, and it left. So here you go. And the George is still there talking to us, you know? I just think it's great. I was just really happy to get this little message from him. And here he is. There's our little George. He's so adorable. I got great souvenirs, and I'm so grateful that I had this experience. Now I would really recommend these medicine cards. Be ready, because it's going to go into deep, understanding, and asking you to really connect to nature. And again, I'm so grateful I met Julie, feline too, and in French, we call it chat sauvage, or we can call it belle sauvage. She's just beautiful, and look at that. She's caring for her little Raymond, and George is looking out for making sure everybody's protected, and he's getting the best. All right. So hopefully you like this. And if you're interested in learning about the medicine card, just purchase a package. Also, you can go on taking a course with Janine on Beyond Academy. She's giving a good course. I did most of it, and I really find these cards powerful. Everybody can do their own, medicine card wheel, but just have the urge once in a while to pull them when you know it's related to something with. If you live in nature, they will really speak out the archetypes, and they're there, the archetype. Funny, I'm the moose. Yeah, okay. So that's all right. That's fine with me. Okay, thank you.